Hey everybody, how's it going? Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com. Welcome to the NoDQ panel. I am being joined by the usual panel guests. Good old JM, Jeff Meacham, the West Coast professor, trivia extraordinaire. Also being joined by the self-proclaimed greatest columnist in NoDQ.com history, Mr. Virtue's Rage. And today we have a very special guest. We have the Outcast Kid. Now, some of you might be familiar with his rap song that we posted on NoDQ.com. He made references to myself and Virtue and Jeff. I thought it was an awesome track. Thank you for doing that, Outcast Kid. I thought that was great, and it's a pleasure to have you on today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It was a pleasure making the song. I'm a big fan of NoDQ, so I was like, how can I show my appreciation for all the free content you guys give on YouTube and everything?
I thought it was great. I really appreciate the love and support, and it's an honor to have you on today. Today's topic is the biggest character flops in wrestling history. And this is a video that could go on for a very long time because there are no shortage of bad gimmicks and bad characters over the years. Outcast, I want to start with you. What do you consider to be like the all-time worst gimmick or character? Like what sticks to mind first? What comes to mind first when you think of bad characters or failed characters or gimmicks or whatever?
Well, just to let everybody know, I grew up watching wrestling. I love wrestling. I'm 18 years old, so I'm going to pull something from recent memory. And I'm going to have to say the Ascension. When they came up, everybody thought since they were really dominant in NXT, they were going to have this big push on the main roster. But as soon as they debuted, I think they had one win. And then they got taken out by I believe it was the New Age Outlaws. It's when all the old veterans came back, and even JBL got off of the announcer's table and gave the clothesline from hell. And ever since, they haven't really found their footing yet, and they're stuck in, they're not even really stuck in mid-card hell because they'll be lucky if they can get on TV. So I think they're, out of everyone in recent memory from a tag team perspective, they've flopped incredibly.
Yeah, I think the problem was that they came up to the main roster and people were immediately comparing them to a knockoff of Demolition and Legion of Doom. I think that was the real problem, that they were being portrayed as knockoffs, and even the babyface tag teams were referencing them as knockoffs, and I think that just really hurt their credibility, that they were seen as a knockoff of a classic tag team. So that pretty much doomed them right from the beginning, I think, and they never really recovered after that. I want to talk about, obviously, what many people consider to be the biggest character flop would be the Shockmaster when he was introduced in WCW 1993. You had Sting introduce him, and it was supposed to be this grand entrance for Fred Ottman, who was formerly Tugboat in WWE and Typhoon. He came out wearing this stormtrooper mask with glitter, and he could not see where he was going. He was supposed to burst through the wall, and he just ended up falling right on his face with his helmet falling off. And, even Sid, I think you could hear Sid breaking out in laughter. They just totally broke character there, and the whole thing was a disaster for poor Fred Ottman. And they tried to salvage the gimmick by making him clumsy, and it just didn't work. It more or less ruined his career in wrestling, but at least he got an action figure out of it. Jeff, your thoughts on that, and what's your all-time favorite bad gimmick that just completely flopped?
Well, the Shockmaster was my number one, so we'll go ahead and talk about that right now. Yeah, the problem was in rehearsal they had done it, everything went fine, but during the pre-production, during the production for the actual television broadcast, David Crockett, of all people, had put a board at the bottom of the blow-through wall, so Fred didn't see it and went. Bleh. That whole thing can be summed up by two phrases. Either Booker T or Stevie Ray said, "Who is this mother effer?" And David Boy Smith said he fell straight on his arse. He said it on live TV at the Clash. That pretty much sums it up right there. My two that I thought, besides the Shockmaster, of course, was any Glenn Jacobs gimmick before 1997 and any Kevin Nash gimmick before 1994 or 93.
Oh, the Oz character. That was so bad.
Oz and Vinny Vegas and Master Blaster. It was just like, dude, Kevin... And you know what? Another guy on that list is Charles Wright prior to The Godfather.
Well, Papa Shango I thought was an okay gimmick, but then that segment where he put the voodoo curse on the Ultimate Warrior was was definitely up there among the most ridiculous things WWE has ever done.
Yeah, those three guys are so talented, and the fact that either WWE or WCW cannot find something viable to do for them until years into their career is very telling about how WWE and WCW especially were creative direction-wise. I mean, Glenn Jacobs as the dentist, Isaac Yankem, it was just like, I get that they were trying to play off the fact that Jerry Lawler had to kiss his own foot, his own nasty, rotten foot, and Bret Hart's rotten foot, and just he had bad teeth. It was a bad business result, but like that was the epitome of the gimmicky pre-attitude era WWF. It was just like, wow.
Virtue, your thoughts, and what would be your top favorite worst gimmick or biggest character flop?
Well, back to the you had Tugboat, Typhoon. What made them think this guy was going to be able to be this serious guy called the Shockmaster? But again, it was a colossal mishap that will forever be remembered. So I guess in that aspect,
it was only Anderson's voice, right?
Yes, it was always voice.
Yeah. That leads me to, and I'm surprised Jeff didn't mention this, and maybe I'm going to get crucified for this, but I just thought so much money was put into this character with the lights, the effects, and to me it flopped. Glacier and WCW. It's almost like, I don't know who saw something in this guy, the martial arts thing, I get it, but the fact that they put all that time and effort into a gimmick like that, and they could have used those resources elsewhere, which they were doing. WCW was growing at the time, but yeah, it's funny because Glacier's going to be at a wrestling show coming up here near Cleveland, AIW, and they're trying to figure out who's going to wrestle him, and I don't think they've figured that out yet. They were asking fans, who should Glacier wrestle? And I just saw something the other day. We still haven't found anybody for Glacier to wrestle, so I don't know if that's him and he's picky on who he works with. I'm going to go there because I want to see what type of production they give him for his ring entrance. So any thoughts from you guys on Glacier?
Glacier versus Virtue. Cleveland, be there.
Oh, God, don't put me in.
Yeah, Glacier, it was one of those things where, it was the initial outing was good, but it was so gimmicky and so anti everything Bischoff was trying to do in WCW back then. He was trying to make more reality based. And Glacier was totally anti-reality. It was complete fantasy.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat was really popular around that time, so I understand wanting to do that gimmick. And, I'll give them credit. They at least tried to go with it for a while. It's not like they did it for a couple weeks and then gave up on it. If it was in WWE, I think Vince would have given up on it after a month. But then again, maybe that's where WWE is still in business and WCW is
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
Because, it really was just an entrance. He had nothing really to offer besides the entrance. With all
Remember that show they had on TBS, Jeff? Saturday night. It was like 6 o'clock. It was like those doors would open. He became a gimmick for that show. That's ultimately what.
Well, 605. That's right.
Yeah, but like that, like his character was supposed to be huge, and it became just a character to be on that show every week.
What's funny is I found it funny that I don't know if it was in 99 or 2000. They had like a fire sale, and Sonny Ono like won the gimmick like from the Glacier character as like a thing, and he gave the entrance to Ernest Miller and the attire to somebody else. I'm just like
Kaz Hayashi, I think.
Kaz Hayashi, thank you. It was just like, wow. The whole thing was hokey as hell, and I'm sure Outcast Kid has stretched his head going, I watched this on the network, but I'm too young for this bullshit, y'all. Seriously.
I was about to say, wasn't Shockmaster, going back to Shockmaster, wasn't he, wasn't he a tag team champ?
Yeah,
I think he captured it. Yeah, with, they were called with the natural disasters.
Yes.
Yep, Earthquake and Typhoon.
Yeah, so I know a couple of the cheesy gimmicks from like back in the day. But yeah, it was like he had that Star Wars kind of get up, and I feel like you gotta have the look and the skill set, and they had him. I think I watched where he was like busting through walls and everything like that. But yeah, you just have to have the look and you have to have the skill set. Kind of like I forget who it was. He was in ECW, and he was like a real idiot. I'm forgetting his name.
The Zombie.
The Zombie. Yeah.
Was this old ECW or WWE ECW?
Old ECW. I'm thinking back when it was like Sandman and all of them.
We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. Yeah.
Well, Outcast Kid, what other ones really stick out to you, like the top of the list of the worst gimmicks? Like you see it and you just think this was so bad. What were they thinking coming up with this character?
I would definitely have to say, and I'm going to go into recent memory for the younger viewers who watch your show. I was a real fan of Darren Young. And what I have to say is after the tag team run that he had with Titus and he got repackaged with this, we're going to make Darren Young great again. It really, they exposed themselves basically by saying, when was he ever great? He wasn't ever an Intercontinental or United champion.
Exactly.
He was riding basically, some would say, on the coattails of Titus O'Neil. And when they had that feud with New Day, the only thing he would really add is like, yeah, you're right, big man. Like he would just add those one-liners in. So when he got repackaged with the legend, why am I forgetting his name? Bob Backlund. Yeah, Bob Backlund. And they had like his whole entrance music changed and everything. And he would sit on the steel steps and he'd give him that pep talk. It was really like I could never buy into it because it's like kind of the Jinder Mahal effect of, all right, you were just jobbing out to Finn Balor and now you're a world champion. So I think that's a big, I mean, I love the guy and he's been through a lot, but I think that was a big flop and the injury didn't help him either.
Yeah.
I think he's still on the shelf, I think.
And also, I think the fact that Bob Backlund is just so crazy and entertaining, and he's got that wild personality that it was hard for Darren Young to stand out standing next to Bob Backlund.
It's funny that you mentioned Bob Backlund because I'm going to go back 20 years now. God help me. When Bob Backlund and Iron Sheik, first of all, they came together as a team, which was like really bizarre. And they managed the Sultan. The Sultan. Like they had this big Samoan, almost badass character who later became Rikishi, of course. But they had him in a mask and they shaved his head. It was just like Rikishi, even as the Samoan SWAT team and the Headtrickers, he was full of charisma, full of life, full of energy. And the Sultan was just this complete charisma sucker. It was terrible.
That one was really bad.
Plus Darren Young doesn't really have any charisma if you really think about it. All he does is what he like puts his like forearms over each other. I mean, that really didn't help. At least John Cena has the you can't see me or the three fingers. And like even going back to other people like Kane, he had like the raising his hand for the choke slam. Darren Young, everything just seemed really cheesy and gimmicky. And even like he won his first match by a fluke, I thought. Wasn't it? It was a battle royal when I think Baron Corbin and Kane took each other out. Yeah, so even his first win was fluky. I think what they should have done is they should have packaged, kind of have a safety net. They should have maybe put him up against Rusev or another foreign person like Jinder Mahal. So you kind of have to cheer for him because you live in the United States of America. So I think that could have helped kickstart him. I think that's what should be happening with Jason Jordan right now because I feel like as each week goes by, everyone is like, this is stupid. So I thought Jason Jordan's first feud should have been with Rusev or someone from a different country, maybe like Sheamus, so everyone can be like USA, and like he was a part of American Alpha, Americans in the name. So I mean, I thought that would have been a perfect feud. But yeah, just circling back to Darren Young, I think he was doomed out of the gate, especially with that fluke win.
Yeah, and the same thing could possibly be said about Jason Jordan with his whole gimmick of being Kurt Angle's son. I mean, right from the get-go, it's come off like it's going to be a big flop, and I guess we'll see how things play out.
And Outcast Kid, wasn't the primetime players, weren't they over? Weren't they popular? They had everybody in the crowd doing that.
They had millions of dollars.
Were there injuries?
Millions
what happened to that? Were there too many injuries going on when they were trying to get them over?
Well, you have to also remember before, a lot of people don't remember this, but they had a hype man. They said, I forgot his name. But
Abraham
he was like,
Washington.
Yes, he was like, my name's blah, 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 and you're about to be entertained for the next 15 to 20 minutes. These are the primetime players, and they would come out, the lights would flash, and then millions of dollars, making moves. They had a hype man. That's kind of what not really Titus O'Neil is for Tozawa, but he's like that manager. They had a manager who hyped everyone up and got everyone excited. It just kind of dragged out because if you remember, they hadn't become tag team champions until I believe it was when the New Day really started getting like heat as heels, and then they had the titles, and then it was in, I think, Brooklyn 2 years ago. It was Titus O'Neil doing that big spot in the turnbuckle, and Kofi Kingston doing the small little tap, and then they got the roll up, and they took the they only won the titles once. So I think WWE took too long to pull the trigger on them. They were hot. They were selling merchandise. I think they were at the top with Cena and them for a little bit, but I feel like they didn't pull the trigger quick enough on them, and that's why they kind of got stale. And then when they repackaged O'Neil and Young, it really kind of killed them. What really killed Titus was putting his hands on Vince McMahon, which is another conversation. But I feel bad for him because he's athletic and he's got the build to be a superstar.
Yep.
Yeah, and sometimes the booking can kill a character. Sometimes you got a guy who's really talented, and he's given a bad gimmick. I wanted to mention this is going back before your time, Outcast Kid, but Terry Taylor, when he became the Red Rooster, here's a guy that had a lot of talent and a lot of potential, and WWE gives him this gimmick where he's got his hair spiked like a rooster, and it pretty much ruined Terry Taylor's wrestling career right there.
Isn't it because Vince McMahon thought he was a prick, thought he was a cock, and that's why he came up with it?
I heard that was
something similar to that. That's just goofy, really goofy.
So it was something to that effect, as I recall. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, what other examples could you bring up, like of a wrestler who had a lot of potential, and if he was booked right, he could have been a success, but the company gave him a really dumb gimmick, which essentially ruined his career?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Terry Taylor, because as soon as you said Terry Taylor, I thought of the York Foundation.
I thought that was all right.
It was all right, but the fact is they had Michael Wall Street, who became successful later, Ricky Morton, who was trying to be a heel after being a Rock and Roll Express, didn't work.
That was a bomb.
Thomas Rich, who was Tommy Rich, a consummate babyface, only got over as a heel in ECW later, and Terrence Taylor. Who Terry, I love Terry Taylor. He's one of the nicest guys I ever met in the business, but he was never going to be the guy. And then, of course, Alexander York, who became Marlena, and, of course, Terry Reynolds. That whole thing, like, WCW was trying so hard to get new guys or established guys over in a different way. It just completely fell on their face like that.
Yeah, like the Widowmaker around the same time. You bring in Barry Windham.
Oh, God, Barry. I know.
Coming off one of the best years of his career with the Horsemen, and then they give him the Widowmaker gimmick.
Well, no, what's stupid is...
the Stalker. What about the Stalker?
The Stalker was even worse. No, the problem... The Stalker was really bad, but the fact is they tried to hide Barry's face, and I get that. With the Widowmaker, they didn't change a thing about Barry's gimmick, except the fact that they called him the Widowmaker Barry Windham. But he still had the black glove. He dressed like Barry Windham as a horseman. Nothing changed. And the kid just had him be Barry Windham, former WWF Tag Team Champion with a darker side, and they completely, again, they blew that one too.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Here's a couple for you, Aaron.
Okay.
Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. Kevin Thorne. You know Kevin Thorne?
Mordecai.
Now, this is the same time, like, I'm packaging this with another person. Kevin Thorne and Sean O'Hare. Now, the problem with the Mordecai gimmick, it was like too opposite of Undertaker, like the light. And I think that was going to doom him from the beginning.
Yes.
Kevin Thorne's pretty popular he became pretty popular in the Indies, so I think he could have made something work had they given him the proper channel. Sean O'Hare with the Devil's Advocate gimmick, I'm telling you something you don't already know. That should have been main event material. Now, that's probably more of a booking thing. He might have had demons backstage.
Yeah.
But, like, to me, those two guys, I felt, especially with SmackDown and Raw, I think, being split at that point, I thought those guys should have been players on SmackDown at least.
When I met Sean O'Hare in 2004 at UPW, he had just come off his WWE run with Piper and then as Devil's Advocate after that.
Yeah.
You could see that the fire was still in his eyes. You could see that he was still wanting to contribute to the business in a big way. Sean O'Hare, I think, was Dusty Rhodes talks about the Barry Windham being the greatest gifted natural athlete he ever saw. I think Sean O'Hare, if given the right gimmick and the right time to develop the gimmick, could have been one of the best athletic big men we ever saw. Because he wasn't a big guy. He was just a cut big guy. He was a big, tall dude. He had a lot of athleticism. And the guy, when he was allowed to, could cut a promo like I had never seen out of such a young, raw rookie like Sean O'Haire was back then.
Yeah.
You know, I'm younger than he was. What I'm saying is, Sean O'Haire had the potential. They just didn't let him express it enough. Because the problem was he came over as, oh, he's one of the WCW guys.
Yeah, and that pretty much doomed him as well, being a guy from WCW who was never really given the chance to succeed. There were a lot of really bad gimmicks with guys that just were never going to go anywhere. A good example is Damian Demento, best known for jobbing. Hopefully he doesn't watch this video, or maybe he'll do it.
Jobbing to Jeff Meacham, you mean?
Can we just say the 1995, 75% of the 1995 WWF roster?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Damian Demento. Guys, look it up on YouTube. Damian Demento, Jeff Meacham, because there was a little back and forth between the two of them, and Jeff had to say a few things about Mr. Demento.
I did, and you know what? Even though somebody else was running NoDQ at the time, it was one of the funniest things we ever did.
Yeah, it was. Max Moon was another stupid gimmick from around that time.
Well, you know what's funny? Max Moon would have worked, I think. I mean, it was gimmicky and hokey as hell, but the problem is Conan is such a dick that he didn't want to try to make it work.
Yeah, but I don't know. I thought
what
the
about
costume was ridiculous.
Aldo Montoya in the same vein?
Incredible.
Became just Incredible.
Because you know what? Just Incredible became Just Incredible and made a huge ton, even ECW-wise, he made a ton of money. Conan never really drew anything in the United States. I don't care what he says on Impact now. He was never a huge draw outside of Mexico. Yeah. And he never will be.
Man.
That's raging Jeff Meacham. Jeff Meacham stealing your gimmick,
It's the truth, though.
Jeff Meacham.
So are you saying Conan's gimmick in WCW flop? Is that what I'm getting out of this? Let's bring.
No, I think it was a good gimmick.
No, I'm talking to Jeff.
Well, no, I think that it worked for him being in the Wolfpack, but that's the problem. He had to get the rub from Nash and Sting and Luger. He couldn't be Conan. Look at Conan by himself when he first came to WCW. Who did he lose to right away? Nature Boy at the same event in the Hogan, the NWO form. He was an afterthought until he joined the NWO.
Yeah, but I think that his gimmick, appealed to the Hispanic audience, and I think if WCW pushed him harder, they could have drawn in more of that audience. WWE did it right with Rey Mysterio and even Alberto Del Rio to a degree. Eddie Guerrero, of course, pushing these guys for the Hispanic audience.
Aaron, don't forget about Goon and Mantar.
Oh, Mantar was one of the worst. Okay,
Mantar was the greatest thing ever. What are you talking about?
I had to get Goon and Mantar off my list.
Yeah, Mantar coming out there with the bull head was like the stupidest thing. At that point, I realized, okay, WWE needs to change.
Outcast Kid, if you don't know what we're talking about, you got to go on YouTube and check out Mantar.
Mantaur. That's all I have to say.
That is one of the worst gimmicks of all time, and there were so many.
That could be a line in one of your songs.
Mantar, yeah.
Mantar. Virtue mentioned the Goon, which was just. What is it with all these guys that had different occupations as their gimmick? I mean, there were so many dumb ones like the Goon and
the dentist, the garbage man, the hockey player.
Duke the Dumpster Drosy was another bad one.
Well, can we say Vince McMahon was trying to relate to the common people? I mean, at that point, WWF's trying to draw in kids, but maybe their fathers were those gimmicks. I don't know.
Not to crap.
That's actually a good idea, though.
One of our favorite people ever, but how about Dusty Rhodes, the Common Man? Did that really work? I liked it too, but we're talking about character flops. Did Dusty Rhodes being a pizza delivery guy or a burger maker or a plumber really work for Dusty, or did Dusty getting Dusty over work for Dusty?
But I think the polka dots got over. I mean,
the dots got over. Great. I'm talking about the vignette things they were doing before that. I was like, that was really bad, even for WWF back then.
Yeah. But yeah, also another thing is I think the entrance themes for some of these guys were really terrible. Like Duke the Dumpster, his entrance theme was just the sound of one of those trash trucks. And then I'm trying to think of some of the other really bad ones.
Isaac Yankem with the drilling of the teeth.
Yeah, just the drilling sound was his entrance theme. I mean, come on.
Here you go. Here's one that worked, but it still flopped in the end. RTC and their theme.
Yeah. Well, it was annoying, but it was designed to be annoying to get everybody frustrated and booing them and all that.
Right. Think about it. Out of everybody in that group, Val Venus went back to being Val Venus. Goodfather went back to being Godfather. Bull Buchanan became John Cena's little buddy, or big buddy. And Stevie went back to being Crazy Stevie. And Ivory went back to being Sexy Ivory. So, you know, it really didn't do anything for any of them, really.
Right. Outcast, do you remember, this is more recent, do you remember Braden Walker?
Oh.
Braden Walker. It sounds familiar.
Okay, well, maybe that's a good thing if you've forgotten about it.
Good old Chris Harris, former Extreme Mayhem guest.
Yeah, went to WWE, and he was basically in and out in like a month.
The greatest part about that gimmick was the 3-disc set they came up with in the commercials. You remember that, Aaron?
Well, that was something a fan came up with, so that wasn't even WWE.
It was the parody, the best of Braden Walker, 3-disc set. That was like, he didn't even have enough matches to have a 3-disc set.
Yeah, whoever came up with that was some great comedy right there.
That was clever stuff right there.
I mean, he got a little pop in TNA when he split with Storm. What was he, the Wildcat? Yeah. I mean, the initial little feud there, I was like, this could work. But
but I think Chris Harris's problem was James Storm was fine as James Storm. Chris Harris was not okay just as Chris Harris. I think they were better together, and James Storm proved that because he went and did the beer money with Bobby Roode, and then he was great on his own for a while too.
Yeah.
Chris Harris never really got out of that AMW shell by himself.
Yeah, but once he went to WWE, I mean, a lot of that was just on him too. I mean, he was out of shape and
Cassius Ohno the first time.
Yeah, that was pretty much a flop, but you know, he's come back and you know, he seems to be doing well.
What's funny is he's still not in the best shape like Chris Hero was back in the day, but they're giving him a chance at least this time.
But he's still doing very athletic stuff. You know, that's the thing. I think guys like Kevin Owens show that, you know, just because you're not in the best physical shape, I mean that you could still be in great ring shape, even if you don't have the body of somebody who's.
Would you agree that had Kevin Owens not been a success like he has been, that they wouldn't have hired Chris Hero back?
I think that's a very valid point. I think you know. Owens,
he may have paved the way for him.
Yep.
Kevin Owens. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Outcast Kid. I got Aaron. I got something for him. We'll bring it back to modern day a little bit. I think this really affected her getting buried now. Tell me your thoughts, Emelina.
Literally. You had to been reading my mind because I was gonna interrupt and say what about her because she literally it was literally built up from months, and it started becoming a joke. I would listen to other podcasts and there'd be like it's kind of like a running joke, kind of like saying that Roman Reigns was never gonna beat the Undertaker, he's never gonna win this match, and there's always like a running joke. And I think if you stack them up, she has to make the top 10. Your debut ended in a night because if you think about it, it got built up. And then she said, I think it was maybe like 4 hours before the show started, they didn't like how she was doing the character. So She said, now you're going to see me go back to Emma. I thought, one, you just wasted almost, I think it was close to, half a year
like 6 months,
of not showing this character on TV. And she had a good thing going before she got, I think it was the shoulder injury. She was this dark character. She had recruited Dana Brooke, and let's be honest, Dana Brooke isn't the best wrestler. And she could have been doing with what Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel are doing for The Miz. They run in, do a distraction, and then Emma would do a cheap shot, get the pin. They could have just had her doing that from here on out. And also, before even that, she was stuck with Santino doing this weird thing like popping the bubbles. So, I mean, they've really screwed Emma. She's a great talent. My friend, he actually got to meet her one-on-one. And she said she loves working in the WWE, but she wants to obviously everyone wants to be champion, but it's like they really screwed with her. I mean, she's not the best in the ring, but she can go with Sasha, she can go with Bayley, but I feel like they really just screwed her throughout her whole tenure with WWE, from the Santino business to the Emelina character. I feel she was really finding her niche when she was that dark character with the dark lipstick and with Dana Brooke.
Yeah, I mean, that injury really affected her. And I'm not sure if there's a gimmick where they spent so much time hyping up something, and then when it happened, it was just the end of it already. They'd given up on it before it really had a chance to succeed or anything. I remember Kazarni. I don't know if you guys remember Kazarni. That was very similar.
I remember Kazarni. Absolutely.
There was a lot of
promos were cool. I love the Carney gimmick. The promos were great, but then poof, gone.
Yeah, they even did that. They even did that with Kurt Hawkins, if you think about it, because he'd have all those promos where he'd be like, fact, and it was building up, I think, for a month. And then he was like, I will make my debut next SmackDown Live. He didn't do anything. He wasn't even on the show. And everybody was like, what's going on? So, I mean, it's – and even also you can go back to a year ago, Shelton Benjamin. He had the debut package, not debut packages, but the return packages for him of him jumping off the ladder, the gold standard. They had the gold effects and transitions. And that went on for about, I think, 4 weeks, and then he got hurt. Yeah. So I feel WWE has to be careful on how they're setting up these people to return if they're a veteran or if they're debuting, because one of my favorite wrestlers now, and yes, he's just a gimmick, and he's a decent wrestler, but Ty Dillinger, I've been telling everyone this, they need to strike the iron while it's hot. This dude, if you want to say he's just a chant, well, capitalize on it. He's selling merchandise. You see the crowd likes to chant along with him. I would say they need to put the they need to put the United States Championship belt on him by the end of 2017. Have him have a 1 or 2 month run, but this guy is getting beat by is it Simon Gotch?
Aiden English.
No, the other guy.
Aiden English.
Aaron really likes Aiden English.
I like Aiden English. Hopefully they don't give him. I think that character has potential.
Yeah, he won't be on this discussion.
Yeah, he has the singing ability, and he comes out and he has great pipes, and then he does what he does in the ring. But let's be honest, he's a jobber, and he's suddenly getting a push now. But I feel Dillinger, if anyone deserves a push on this roster, if you marketable wise, it should be Dillinger. He can sell the merchandise, the 10, with the 10. I think he has a jersey, and also he has the 10 with the Dillinger on the back. I think he's really marketable right now. And if you keep having him lose, he's just gonna like fall to the wayside. Or they could even have a storyline where someone comes up to him and he says, "Oh, you lost to him last week. You're not a perfect 10. You're just a loser." And then he goes back to kind of what he did in NXT. Am I good enough? Do I? Because he would go to William Regal. I don't belong here. Like, I have to prove myself. They should really kind of recreate that story. Just how everybody was begging WWE to recreate kind of Bayley's story. I feel she's been just destroyed beyond repair. So I feel what they should do with Dillinger is if they're going to have him keep losing, build him back from the ground up and have him go to Shane McMahon or Daniel Bryan. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I need to be here. I think I need to go back down to NXT. And then Daniel Bryan being the face, he could say, "No, we called you up for a reason. We wanted you." And you could have him go through a battle royal or something. I feel like he's soon on the route of being wasted talent. And I feel WWE needs to capitalize, if not from a fan's perspective, from a marketable perspective. We all know Vince likes that money, so they should pull the trigger on it.
He should start winning all of his matches by countout.
Yeah,
that should be his gimmick.
That's it.
He should do a power move to people on the outside, and they can't get back in. Maybe he turns heel because of that, but people are going to chant.
Yeah, it's funny. Aaron mentioned liking it in English for the gimmick he has now. What about the Vaudevillains when they got called up? What a flop that was.
I loved it in NXT,
I thought that could have been something interesting.
They were the best tag team in NXT for a long time, much like the Ascension, and then they got called up. And
yeah, I mean, some gimmicks only have a short shelf life, and who knows if they could have lasted longer on the main roster. It's hard to say. But sometimes you have guys that do make comebacks. You look at somebody like Tyler Breeze, who felt like he was pretty much just going to be destined for nothing, and then all of a sudden this fashion police gimmick started with Fandango, and those guys, both of them kind of had a resurgence. I mean,
they really did.
Fandango was almost a flop.
Quick question about Tyler Breeze and Fandango. Do you see this as an improvement, or do you see this as, because I think personally they're entertaining, but what are you guys really doing? You're not really having matches. I mean, they had that title match, but it's like, this is just me. Like when I was little, I wanted to be a wrestler. Obviously, I'm on a more musical career choice path now. But why are you in WWE to solve crimes? If that's the case, go 30 minutes. Not 30 minutes. Go an hour earlier and go to the previous show, CSI, if you want to be a detective.
They need to really work the belts onto them. They need to build this Fashion Files up, make people really like these characters, and then they get a shot. It might be a few months down the road.
Well, I mean,
make
the fans,
payoff. They win the
fans
belts.
are entertained by it. The fans are enjoying the segments, and it's giving them TV time. And I always say any TV time is better than no TV time. And if these guys can come on TV and do something entertaining, I mean, it's better than nothing. Yeah, I think the segments are a bit over the top, but I've definitely seen worse. I mean, I would not say it's the worst thing I've ever seen. I mean, you want to talk about the worst thing I've ever seen? I mean, some of the stuff we've mentioned.
Gobbledygooker.
Yeah, Gobbledygooker from Survivor Series 1990. Jeff, that was, I believe, the first pay-per-view you ever watched, right?
That was the first. That was around the time. The first time I ever saw WrestleMania 7. That was the time I started watching when Undertaker debuted, and I was getting into the whole Survivor Series concept. And they bring out this wannabe San Diego Chicken.
Yeah, and there was so much hype for that too. They spent weeks hyping it up, and people thought it was going to be maybe the debut of a new superstar, but it just turned out to be. Hector Guerrero in a turkey costume.
In chicken suit. Yeah, I was like, really? It was horrible.
Yeah, that was one of the most notoriously bad debuts of a character.
Worst debut ever. And then did they do anything with him after that? Like anything?
Nothing, except for the gimmick Battle Royal. Oh, you remember Saba Simba from around the same time? Tony
my
Atlas?
God, poor Tony Atlas. Yeah, seriously.
I mean, that was just, a lot of people were very offended by that gimmick that he had.
I was.
In WWF.
I was barely watching, and I started watching, and I was like,
Yeah, and recently Tenzai was another one I remember that was really bad. Bringing back Matt Bloom with that Japanese gimmick, and that lasted a couple months, and then I think
I'm not gonna lie, that was an interesting gimmick. Maybe because I was around. That was an interesting gimmick.
I didn't mind Tenzai so much. The fact was they had him booked as a monster, and then they had him job right away to like either Cena or one of the other like big stars. I'm like, if you're gonna build this guy, freaking build this guy.
And then he's with like the Funkadactyls.
Oh God! Sweet.
Yeah,
I got
really
one
bad.
for you, Aaron. This and I see somebody today that I hope doesn't follow the same path. And I don't know, but Test. I really thought Test was going to be a star. Now maybe that's not a gimmick that flopped. Maybe it's just more of the wrestler. But he was in that hot angle with Stephanie and Triple H.
Yes.
And then it just went downhill. And I see Cass, but now it's like he's got different music every week. I just don't really know what's going on there, and I hope he doesn't follow that same path of looks like he could be a big star, but then
doesn't end up being a big star. Yeah, I mean that would definitely be a disappointing run, but I mean I wouldn't say Test was a flop of a character because he did have some success, maybe not as much as he could have, but he did have.
When I first saw him, I was like, dude, this guy's gonna be big. And I was let down by what I wanted.
I mean, are there any other
characters? I think success in this business is longevity, and he was around for almost 10 years. So,
I mean, Jeff, are there any other characters we haven't brought up that came in with some anticipation and then maybe after a couple weeks just completely fizzled out? Are there any other ones that we have not mentioned? Anybody can jump in before.
Think of Australia.
What were you talking about?
Hakushi? No, I thought he was fine.
Hakushi was fine for the first 3 months, and then he was jobbing to freaking Horowitz.
But he was a great performer. I was really disappointed that he did not last longer in WWE.
Exactly.
There were a lot of characters that disappeared really quickly around that time. You had Waylon Mercy, which I thought was an underrated gimmick. Unfortunately, that one fizzled out really quickly.
Well, the problem is we all, looking back now, the old school fans know Dan Spivey's not crazy. So, it was kind of like, really?
Yeah, but I liked the gimmick, and I think Bray Wyatt got elements of his character from Waylon Mercy. Of course, both of them are both getting their character based off of now the movies just completely.
Me too. I lost it. Yeah.
The Colossus of Bogger Road. You know who I'm talking about?
Nathan Jones. Yeah, that one really was disappointing. I have to agree with you.
Oh, Cape Fear was what I was talking about with Waylon Mercy.
Cape Fear. Max. God, what was his character name? Max something. Max Cody or something like that.
We were getting all kinds of hype in that era. Mordecai, Sean O'Hare, with vignettes, too.
Yeah.
Nathan Jones, and none of them panned out.
Oh yeah,
Nobody.
Nathan
No.
Jones was a guy people thought was going to be a big star, and he just completely fizzled out. And I remember that
Yeah.
WrestleMania 19 match was one of Undertaker's worst WrestleMania
It
matches.
was.
I think they actually took Nathan Jones out of the match, or did they do a handicap match?
They did a handicap match because they had the FBI attack. The FBI lured Nathan Jones in, and then Big Show and A-Train attacked him. But at the end of the match, Nathan came back out. He decked Big Show with a huge kick, and then Undertaker tombstoned A-Train to win the match.
Oh, Matt Morgan, him too with the whole stuttering gimmick.
I know, that was horrible. That was really bad.
I mean, he did pretty well in TNA, and they just completely dropped the ball with him.
How about Aces and Eights?
Oh no, that was one of the worst ones of all time. Okay.
Don't bring TNA up. No.
We've been talking here for 40 minutes without bringing up TNA. If we start talking about TNA, we're going to be on here for another hour. I mean, you had Aces and Eights. You had, what's his name? Orlando Jordan coming out pouring milk on himself. I mean, you had so many bad gimmicks. You had AJ Styles trying to be Ric Flair.
AJ Styles trying to be Sting.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many bad ones in TNA. We could go on all night.
This is why Jeff Meacham shouldn't talk.
Oh, what was Dustin Rhodes' gimmick? Relic? Like it was backwards
Relic?
for killer?
How about Seven?
Seven?
WCW.
Yeah, we've gone through a whole video without talking much about
But at least
WCW.
TNA gave us the Broken
Roadblock.
Hearts.
Remember Roadblock?
Oh, yeah.
Roadblock was bad. I mean, in WCW had so many bad ones. You had
The Blacktop Bully.
Yeah, the Blacktop Bully, the artist formerly known as Prince Iakea.
Prince Iakea.
You had. I thought the MIA gimmick was really stupid, quite frankly.
You know what? The MIA worked because it was meant to get those guys over, and for a little bit it did.
Hugh Morse coming out there calling himself Hugh G. Rection.
General Erection, baby.
As great as Mike Awesome was, the
fat
chick
chick
thriller and that
thriller.
70s
Yeah,
guy.
70s guy. Yeah, God. What? That was probably the worst decline from world champion, huge hype, turns on ECW, joins WCW, and then he's a fat chick guy and a 70s guy. Okay.
God, I miss Mike Awesome.
I really, you know what?
I met him in Youngstown.
We had him on the show not too long before he died, and we looked back and went, wow, that was. I mean, we had him on.
What about Renegade?
I think
Renegade was doomed for failure the minute they debuted him, though. There was no real chance of success there because he was never going to be the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, just an Ultimate Warrior clone, basically.
Exactly.
You would even
Poor
say
guy shot
Ultimate
himself
Warrior
later,
was
he
a
just fell-
flop. As a character, as a flop in WCW. Just his gimmick was way out of place with the reality. The whole Attitude Era and everything being more realistic. The Warrior just felt like so out of place in 1998.
Oh, remember when Warrior ran out on Raw and the pyros didn't go off, and then he ran back and then he came back out? Do you remember that? Back when
I
he was
remember
like
that.
96?
Oh, there
was in
were
96.
a lot of bad ones. In the Attitude Era, there were even bad gimmicks on Raw, too, like Beaver Cleavage was a bad one, I can remember. That only lasted, a couple weeks?
No, that Russo heard that one.
Yeah, that was a
Outcast
Russo
Kid,
special.
I feel like you got another one that you're ready to pop right here. Outcast Kid, you got another one. I feel it.
Yeah, would you say the Boogeyman was a bad character?
That's an interesting one. I think it had mild success. I think it was all right. I mean, it was a better gimmick. It was more interesting when he was just doing the gimmick than actually wrestling.
The Eater of Worlds meets like the Boogeyman.
The Eater of Worms.
Well, he did get the mole off of
Jillian.
Oh, that
was the grossest thing ever.
That was a dumb storyline too.
How about anything Brutus Beefcake when he went to WCW?
Oh yeah, Zodiac. Zodiac,
the man with no name, the disciple. Like, come on.
The Booty Man. Yeah, he had like 3 or 4 different really bad gimmicks that never.
The Booty
out.
Man.
Yeah. Shake that booty.
With his finisher was the high knee. Like seriously, that was his finisher. Was the high knee. Think about that. Just think about it.
We get some good discussions here on the panel. Outcast, I want to thank you very much for being on. You got your plugs, I'm sure, so go ahead and tell everyone where they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, it was fun doing the video with you guys. To all the NoDQ viewers out there, if you do not know me from the music, I'm the Outcast Kid. I make nerdy, chill music for people who just want to relax. If you are a fan of video games like BioShock or Zelda, um, Resident Evil, any game that's really out there, I have a great summer chill mixtape out on the Spinrilla app called Nerd DNA. And also I'm on SoundCloud, the Outcast Kid. And you can follow me on Twitter at Outcast Kid Music. And any like questions you want to ask me or suggestions, I'm open to making like parody songs, or themes, certain theme songs if you guys are down. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but we have stickers, we have shirts. My shirt's in the wash, so I couldn't wear it today. But yeah, check me out, and I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna find a lot of content and songs that you're really gonna be able to listen to when you're going to parties or just working out.
Yeah, we'll have a link
Very
to your
good.
stuff. We'll have a link to your stuff on the on NoDQ and the YouTube channel, and of course the song you did for NoDQ, which was awesome. Like I said at the beginning, thanks again for doing that. And that'll wrap it up for this edition of the NoDQ panel. I'd like to thank everyone out there for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. List some of your favorite worst gimmicks, biggest character flops, anything that we missed. And I know we missed a lot of them, especially from WCW and TNA. I mean, there are just so many bad ones. Go ahead and list some of the ones that stand out the most to you. And you could follow Jeff at _Jeff Meacham on Twitter and Virtue at NoDQ_Virtue. And you know where to find me. That'll do it for this edition. We'll see you guys next time.